I didn't break a bone. That's the part that surprises people. I was 94 years old, lying flat on my own front steps, staring at the cold concrete. And the first thing I thought wasn't pain. It was this, what if I can't get back up? That thought stays with you longer than any bruise. It was a regular winter morning in Fort Wayne. Nothing dramatic. I opened the door, stepped out to grab the newspaper like I'd done for years. One step, that's all it took. There was a thin layer of ice I didn't see. My foot slid, my body went down hard, and suddenly I was on the ground looking up at my own house like it belonged to someone else. My neighbor came running over. Nice man. Helped me sit up, asked if I needed an ambulance. I told him I'm fine. I always say that. Been saying it my whole life. I don't like making a scene. And technically I was fine. No broken hip, no hospital. I walked back inside on my own. Made my coffee, sat in my usual chair. But something was off. Not my hip, not my arm. It was the way I moved after that. Slower, careful, like my own house had turned into a place I needed permission to walk through. That morning, I didn't lose my independence, but I lost something close to it. And once that feeling slips, it doesn't stay out on the front step. I started holding on to things I never used to notice. The edge of the table, the back of a chair, the wall in the hallway. Not because I had to, but because something in me didn't trust the next step. At first it felt small, sensible even, just being careful. That's what I told myself. 94 years old, you're allowed to be careful. But careful has a way of growing. I stopped going out in the morning if the ground looked even a little wet. The newspaper could wait. The mailbox at the end of the driveway started feeling farther than it really was. Some days I'd look at it through the window and decide it wasn't worth the risk. Church on Sundays got harder too. Not because I didn't want to go. I just didn't like the idea of those front steps when it was cold out. Missing 1 week turned into missing a few. Inside the house, I moved slower. I gave myself extra time to stand up. I didn't rush for the phone when it rang. Let it ring a few more times. Whoever it was could wait. Then one afternoon, I dropped the TV remote. It landed right next to my foot. I looked at it longer than I'd like to admit. Bending down didn't feel like a big deal before. Now it felt like a decision, like something I had to think through. In the end, I didn't pick it up. I called my daughter Susan and asked her to come by. She walked in, picked it up in 2 seconds, didn't say much, but I could see it on her face. And sitting there in my own living room, I realized something I hadn't said out loud yet. I pushed my hands into the arms of the armchair and tried to stand without thinking about it. Halfway up, I stopped. Not because I was in pain, because I didn't feel steady. My legs didn't answer the way they used to. I sat back down like nothing happened, but that small moment stuck with me more than the fall ever did. Susan started coming by more often after that day with the remote. She didn't say I needed help. She just noticed things. The mail sitting longer, the way I got up slower, the way I hovered near furniture like it might disappear if I let go. She said, "Let's just have a doctor take a look. Nothing serious." I didn't like that. I've gone most of my life without needing someone to check on me. But I agreed mostly because I was tired of pretending everything felt normal. Dr. Bennett didn't rush anything, asked simple questions, looked at my medications, watched how I stood up. Then he said something plain. You didn't get hurt from the fall, but you've been moving less since it happened. That part annoyed me. I wanted to say I was being careful, responsible, but I knew what he meant. A few days later, Susan arranged for a physical therapist to come to the house. Rachel Miller, young, direct, no nonsense. She pulled out one of my kitchen chairs and said, "Stand up, don't use your hands." I gave it a try. Didn't work. I laughed it off at first, made a joke about being 94. She didn't laugh, just nodded and said, "That's where we start." And right there in my own kitchen, I understood something I should have seen sooner. The fall didn't take me down. What I did after it almost did. I started with the chair. Rachel had me sit, then stand, then sit again. No rushing. No using my hands if I could help it. The first few tries were ugly. My knees shook and I didn't like how slow I looked. But she didn't care about how it looked. She cared that I did it again. That became step 1. Then she had me walk down the hallway, placing one foot directly in front of the other, heel to toe, like I was walking a straight line nobody else could see. I kept one hand near the wall just in case. That was step 2. Step 3 was standing at the kitchen counter, lifting one foot off the ground for a few seconds. I didn't get far at first. A couple seconds felt like a long time. Still counted. Step 4 was simple. Hold the counter, rise up on my toes, then back down, over and over. My calves complained about it, which Rachel said was a good sign. Step 5 felt the strangest. Standing straight, holding the counter, moving one leg out to the side, then back in. She said my hips needed it more than I thought. None of it looked impressive. No machines, no big progress in a day. Just small things repeated. At the same time, we changed how I lived in the house. I stopped wearing those soft socks that slide too easily. Switched to shoes with a good rubber sole. Susan rolled up the loose rugs. We added a grab bar in the bathroom and small lights in the hallway for the night. Doctor. Bennett adjusted when I took my medication so I wasn't getting lightheaded when I stood up. I didn't like the cane at first. Felt like I was announcing something I wasn't ready to admit. But once I used it outside, I realized it wasn't taking anything away from me. It was giving something back. I still check the ground before I step outside. Not because I'm scared the way I was back then, just because I understand things a little better now. I don't move the way I did 10 years ago. I don't rush to answer the phone. I don't pretend I can do everything the same way. And honestly, that's probably the reason I'm still doing as much as I am. What I learned at 94 is simple, but it took me a fall to see it clearly. One fall can shake you. That's normal. But if you let the fear stay, it starts making decisions for you. You stop walking as much. Your legs get weaker. Your world gets smaller. And before you notice it, you're not living in your house anymore. You're just staying in it. Those 5 steps didn't fix me overnight. They gave me something to hold on to, a way to move forward without guessing. And the changes in my home, the cane, the slower pace, none of that took my independence away. They protected it. If I could give you any advice, it would be this. Don't wait until you feel weak to take care of your balance. Don't let pride stop you from making small changes that keep you safe. And don't confuse being careful with slowly giving up parts of your life. Sometimes the smartest way to stay independent is to adjust before something forces you to. If stories like this speak to you, this channel shares more stories about life advice, stories about advice from grandparents, stories about life lessons that come from real people who've lived long enough to learn things the hard way. Subscribe if you want to hear more of them.